Hello, everyone. It's Cheryl Millett live at 5 Mondays on Facebook. And for some of you might know that I'm actually going to be starting a new project for September 3rd. I guess technically we might say a job, but it's very exciting, and I'll share more in time. But this program is a program, show, video, whatever it is about all things healthy. And there's so many topics I could talk about. It's unbelievable. It's incredible. Even from one day, I could come up with a handful of topics actually to speak about here. That would, just me sharing what I'm learning on an ongoing basis that I think is relevant for people to learn or to understand, and then to further explore, or even to comment on based on your experiences. So the topics today I was going to talk about is fluoride. And fluoride is a very interesting topic. You might have knowledge on fluoride to the degree that you do, or you might just be one of those people that have heard that there are groups that are, well, for fluoride or against fluoride. I wanted to read you some things out of my book. So I'm just going through and summarizing the chapters at the end of the chapter. So it's a bit of a review for people. But as I'm going through it, wow, I'm just grateful I'm just putting in a book, so it's captured there for me to review it on ongoingly. But I mean, there is so much that is out there. If you go to check in Health Canada or environmental protection scenarios, and even the World Health Organization, that they have that actually warn you about certain things, and yet it's still baffling in some ways why more people don't know about this. And the idea here is, now there's a bit of information here. I'm just going to pull out a few things, but I'm going to say hello, Ivan. Hello, Daryl. It's great to see that you come on here. Fluoride. So here we go. What I'm going to say first off, just to kind of bring light to it, is fluorine, or we understand that it's an element on the elemental chart, and it does come in different forms like other things, like calcium comes in different forms. Fluoride also comes in different forms, and there's what we call a form of fluoride that's synthetic or produced or a byproduct of the pesticide industry. Now, when it comes to fluoride, interestingly enough, it actually has a couple of bodies that are watching it, monitoring it, comment on it, but also vying for its, to be in toothpaste or to be in water. And really what I want to kind of say is that the Environmental Protection Agency, they have to do assessments, and they're different than what we think of the Dental Association, or those that would say, yes, we want fluoride in our toothpaste. But they do an assessment based on toxicity, not wanting people to, toxic levels. So that would be, they'd have to abide by that. But what I've learned is that the fluoride can cause affecting the stomach lining. If there has been accidents, and every time there's an accident of adding too much fluoride into water, they have to do a study, or they have to assess it. In some cases, they do a larger study, and they give concentrations of amount of fluoride. I'm not going to go into that, but the idea is that it causes stomach, like nausea, it causes vomiting, and these concentrations are, I would just say, anywhere from 50% to 100 to 200% greater than what's allowable by the EPA, which is the Environmental Protection Agency, which is different than the reason why we have fluoride in our water, and it's different than why we have fluoride in our toothpaste. But just to kind of, bring in a little piece of information here, fluoride is not an essential nutrient in our body. It is not what makes up the human body as needed for functioning. Okay, just sometimes fluoride helps dentals and protects the teeth, and we think it's part of the enamel. It's not part of the enamel, not at all. So overdosing is absolutely possible, and it's been proved by many dentists, even here in Toronto, which they call fluorosis, and that from not just the vomiting and the nausea when there's great amounts of fluoride accidentally added to the waters. And this is in the case of children's schools, by the way, the 2 studies I put in my book. But the idea is here, which is just mind-blowing, is that the labels on the toothpaste say they do have their own warnings. But Health Canada tells the parents to avoid using toothpaste with children under the age of 3, and that they should only brush with water. Now, I don't know about any other parents, and if you're grandparents and you grandchildren, where for the most part, as soon as children have teeth, they're buying toothpaste, and they have, children's toothpaste. But, and we're thinking that it's safe. But fluoride, as in the fluorosis, which is too much fluoride in the body, brings, yes, the vomiting, yes, brings the nauseous, that kind of thing, in stomach, and affects the stomach lining, will also be, how can I say it? I want to come back to that in a moment. The idea around toothpaste is that even children under the age of 6 should be supervised, which means there should not be any swallowing, and only a pea-sized amount. Now, we can joke at this one because I don't know how many of us, when we were kids, would take the toothpaste and we'd be proud of ourselves because we go from one end of the toothbrush to the other end of the toothbrush, be it we liked the mint, be it that we liked whatever it was about toothpaste. We did not use a pea-size amount. And the Center for Disease Control and Prevention advises mothers not to use fluoridated water to make baby formula. So never mind baby formula, how about all the other foods that the baby would be ingesting that we may heat up with water? Like, say you're making your own baby food and you're using fluoridated water. So this is with baby formula. And so really, is fluoride good for any age? Really, they're saying here it's a toxic substance, but somewhere in the whole scheme of our world, we have deemed fluoride, which is not part of our body, not needed by our body. It's not it's not in the enamel of the teeth. Now, it has been, which I found, where they'll say fluoride will help with the bacteria in the mouth. Okay, so that's different. That's a little bit different. But what I want to say about that is, here's all this water around the world being fluoridated. Maybe that's the way they're, trying to control the bacteria in there. And surely chlorine does the same thing, but it evaporates, whereas fluoride doesn't evaporate. So you see where I'm going. What people are doing, ingesting any water that's been fluoridated, ingesting ongoing bits and pieces of toxicity from this synthetic fluoride in the water. It's really quite simple. The EPA talks to the levels, and even the World Health Organization speaks to, I think it's Turkey to China. They have natural minerals of fluoride. These natural, it's fluorine, it's natural, and they have huge issues. They have to take it out of the water because this is where there's naturally occurring fluoride, and it causes brittle bones, or hardening of the bones. And hardening of the bones is not a good thing. Who knew? You want hard bones, but you don't want bones that are too hard. Simple like that. Kind of have to take the middle road here. Thinking, So, but anyway, the things that are also in toothpaste are such things as sorbitol, which is an artificial sweetener, trisodium phosphate, which was banned, or TSP, which was banned in household cleaning products, and artificial colors are in toothpaste. So really, we do have healthier toothpaste out there that you can look for where there's no fluoride. Of course they sell it because there's a demand for it, and it's okay to sell it without fluoride, right? It's okay to sell it without fluoride. It's not the end of the world. But even here, I've heard dentists talk about young children. Now here, there's fluoride in much of the water in Ontario. Some cities have gotten it taken out by the fight because it seems like to be like a more of a municipality kind of scenario, not a federal thing, but might be different for different countries. But here we go. We do really want to not ingest fluoride. There is nothing I found where fluoride is beneficial. It is not part of our body. It's not part of the enamel. It may be that it actually does help with bacteria, of course, but bacteria, as we know, is there's good bacteria, there's bad bacteria. Do we want to kill all the bacteria in our mouth? No, we don't want to do that either. So what's the sense of it? I don't get it. And in European countries, most of them don't even put fluoride in the water. They're actually avoid or using minimal treatment in that case. And there's actually been a 75% decline in cavities. With that decline in fluoride or treatment in their water. So that's kind of cool. Now, when I was in Ireland, I could taste that they did, in Republic of Ireland, I should state that, they actually do treat 70% of the water. But when I was in Scotland this past summer, from the very moment I tasted the water, which I usually do just to see what it tastes like, I could tell it wasn't treated. And then I went on to ask different people. So the whole time I was in Scotland, a couple of weeks, I did not have to buy bottled water. Well, how good is that for the environment? Just could take it out of the water fountains, the taps, and drink the water the whole time. Didn't have to buy one bottle of water there in Scotland. I think England's the same thing. They said something about only 10% is treated. But Scotland, anywhere I went, big town, small town, I tasted the water, and it all was great water. And apparently the Scots there will say, yes, we do have good water, don't we? And I go, you absolutely do have great water. But I can't say that about Toronto. Not at all. As many people want to say we have good water, what I will just say is sometimes something is better than nothing, for sure. Other times I would just say, well, if they're starting off with extremely water, toxic water, or let's say a breeding ground for, if they're not treating it properly, it could be very much a breeding ground for things. And so they add all these chemicals in, but those chemicals are not good for our system. And I want to actually talk to this. I'll bring this up, and then I'm just going to wrap up on fluoride unless there's any question. Ivan mentions used in German concentration camp water to keep prisoners complicit, and also calcifies the pineal gland. That's the hardening. So hardening can happen anywhere in the body, anywhere. And been using baby training toothpaste. Yes. So sometimes it can be that there are things that are for kids and they have to, according to whatever toxicity or toxicology or whatever, have to eliminate certain things because they just know it's too toxic for the systems. And I personally feel if it's too toxic for a baby, it means that as adults, we're still adding toxicity into our body. We just might not have the same responses there. But here's a study. It's a 12-year, multi-million-dollar study. Sounds pretty cool, which shows fluoride as an endocrine disrupting chemical. And it showed the correlation between lowering IQ. Now, Ivan mentions that about complicit, so they might have used a larger amount, and an increase in the number of children with ADHD. Now, and also low thyroidism. So how many people are being low thyroid? There might be other toxins that interfere with that too as well. We can't just put it on one toxin that is out there. So it was shown to disrupt the normal function of brain cells. Again, back to the complicit thing. Fluoride is damage to the pineal gland, so that's what it says in here, and also increases the uptake in aluminum, which we know aluminum foil, aluminum is a neurotoxin, and this can be causing like the plaques, the tanglements when we think of Alzheimer's. And then also a study in Mexico shows the decrease in IQ as well. So across the board, that would be affecting the nerves. That would be affecting our brain, the nerves, and it would be a toxin. But if it's a neurotoxin, heaven forbid, neurotoxins, and I have a whole list of it in my book, but the idea is if your brain is not functioning, if you interfere with nerve function, you have a problem, as they might say in NASA or something like that, right? We got a problem. So that's what we don't want. We don't want to interfere with brain function. And also, just to kind of put a nice slant or a positive slant to it, is whatever's kind of coming into our system and our system doesn't want it in there, we can also over time release it, eliminate it, detoxify from it, cleanse from it. And in good time or in short time, we can see differences when we start to eliminate or change. In the case if we are 70 or even as much as 90% water in our body, it would make sense that we consume or drink water that is not have all these toxins in it. So the idea is, if you ever have an opportunity to make a choice, fluoride in the water or not in the water, or if you have a choice to bring up something in, politics-wise or city-wise, or comment on things, that would be one thing. And it'd be a question to ask: is it in the water that you're drinking? Simple. Is it in the water that you're drinking is a very good question, as people who are, drinking that. So that's on fluoride. I just wanted to bring that up. And you can do your research on it. I think I researched it for about a month. I wanted to hear and learn as much as possible, and then went out to Ireland and reached out to them to find out if there was fluoride in the water, because I'd be traveling there for a few years. And they came back to me saying, well, actually found an organization that is trying to get the fluoride out of the water, and they wanted me to, show up at a certain place, send letters that I'm not keen to drink fluoride, and of course, being a tourist and places cater to tourism in Ireland and many other places, that sometimes might hold weight to them hearing it. And it's always better to bring it up or mention it to people, because how else are they going to know how we feel? It's really simple as that. How are they going to know how we feel about things if we don't ask the question or just say comments about certain things? Now, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to read the small print here, but if there's any questions on fluoride, I'm not an expert on it. I surely read a lot of things on it, but off the top of my head, I'm not going to be able to roll and dive into too many things on fluoride. But fluoride, in my opinion, just kind of summarizing, you don't want to be consuming it for two reasons. One, fluoride is not an element needed by the body. And two, it's a toxin. It's a neurotoxin. And so therefore, you don't want it. And especially for women who are pregnant, women who have infants, and you're making baby food for them, and you're using tap water as fluoride. Even Health Canada says do not use the tap water for infants, and that's preparing food and giving them water to drink. So if you hear that loud and clear, that may be very, very helpful for the immune systems of our little wee ones. And then, of course, the mother who's pregnant, and then the children. Toothpaste, yes, we don't want to have fluoride in the toothpaste for the children. They say avoid it under the age of 3, just brush with water, and under the age of 6, just a pea size. But now we can get toothpaste without fluoride, so that is better. And I think, of course, if it's toxic for children, we still have to understand it's toxic for us too. It's just we may not respond to it the same way, but we're still there. So enough about fluoride. you can go back and watch some of the video part of it on fluoride, because there's some important information there if you're trying to make a decision on whether to use fluoride, or ask your city if they're using fluoride, and you can do your research on as well. So this is something I wanted to also bring attention to. One, you're going to see this is a lovely bottle of, now it's not a Mickey, anybody, but when I brought it out at a funeral, yes, I like to have, I brought it out in a paper bag because that's what I was given it. And everybody thought I was drinking at my uncle's funeral. Or they're like, whoa, first of all, I don't drink much, so it's hilarious. But the expression on their face was raising eyebrows. But it was funny for me. So this is oil with sweetgrass infused in it. And it's, boy, I mean, I just take it off the shelf and sniff it. So I don't know if anybody here, yeah, Ivan says, I don't know if anybody here has ever encountered sweetgrass. But Ivan says, I heard on that report you were talking about, they said Toronto uses it. Yeah, Toronto definitely uses fluoride, absolutely. And but it's good to go on to wherever you live, especially if it's treated water, right? City water, treated water, and find out. Just explore it and ask, you know, see what else is in your water, perhaps. This is another thing, I don't know if you can see it. You can kind of see it. It's pretty good. This is actually sweet grass, just the grass dried and in a container, and that it's got a sweet grass smell, but it's not the same as the infused in the oil for sure. But here's what I want to bring up. One, you might have heard that vaping is not so good, and I have been into a vape shop just to ask questions kindly and nicely, and if there's nobody in there, I had a good conversation with the person running the vape store and asking about a little bit about the product, asking a little bit about the chemicals, but mostly first kind of going into what the different kinds are. And of course there's different names and there's different tastes and there's different things, which tells me there's got to be some flavors in there. There's got to be some chemicals. But recently I read an article, if I can find it, that talked about, you can probably Google it, down side effects of vaping or something. We always have to think about, first and foremost, anything going into our lungs is a direct connection to our system. You know, the blood's circulating, picking up the oxygen that's coming in from the air, and it's going into our bloodstream. So it's a direct connection to our body. So no matter what, vape, mist, water, whatever, you're breathing it into your lungs, and maybe you're just breathing it in any which way through your nose, secondhand smoke, tobacco smoking, cannabis smoking. I mean, these are carcinogenic. These are carcinogenic. No matter which way you look at it, it's burning. In fact, as part of understanding carbon monoxide is a inefficient burn of wood, coal, natural gas, gasoline. And as we know, you can go into a garage and you can turn on the car and you can seal it all up, or you can stuff a thing in the pipe or whatever it is, and you can get carbon monoxide poisoning, which is basically what the carbon monoxide is it goes in and it just steals all your oxygen. So you just become blue because there's no oxygen. It's stealing the oxygen. So if that's what you're breathing in. So back to this. So we have sweetgrass that apparently can offset the downside of people smoking cannabis. Because, now again, it's still burning, people. We have to think it's still burning, but it's cleaner. It doesn't have the same side effect as the cannabis, the drug-like effect. You're not going to get high off of sweetgrass. So what it might be is you're smoking your usual tobacco. You're smoking your usual grasses, so tobacco leaves, and by using peace grass, in this case is the company peacegrass.com. I'll put the link below, but this is, you know, I've been speaking to Adam for many years now, and they're supposed to launch it this summer, so I'm going to check it out. It is Canadian, but there's some medicinal purposes for it, and it is smoking, and the liquid here can actually be used as massage oil. So very healing and medicinal that way. I prefer just to smell it myself. And there is, I'm just going to show you here briefly. And again, I'll just put a link so you can kind of see. But this is sweetgrass. It's just a braid. That's what they'll do. So we can think of native here as far as the use or who's used sweetgrass over the years. And is there as much around as there used to be? No. But let's imagine there's more sweetgrass growing, even in our own gardens. I'm going to try and see if I can get some and grow it in my own garden. Will I smoke it? Absolutely not, because the idea of smoke going into my lungs and the whole, carbon monoxide stuff and the carcinogenic of things, smoke. We're told not to breathe in smoke when we're in a fire, and not to inhale it and things like that. But yet we do it in these other. I don't get it. I really sometimes don't get it. But you can do, I'm going to put some links down below, but great plant. I think it has a lot of benefit to it. I'm just trying to see if there's anything on this sheet regarding it as benefits. No, but there is some on it. But I just want to talk to the vaping, because vaping is coming out more and more, if you haven't heard about it, as being toxic for the body. And again, it's directly coming into our lungs, going into our system, picking up our blood. It's chemicals that are there on the lungs. And I'm not sure if it actually comes into the blood. Probably does. I'm sure it does. Because we see it as in our blood and system when people are smoking pot. So it comes into our system. But it may very well block, the lungs, as we know, for smoking tobacco. It kind of interferes with the healthy cells there, and I don't know, you can call it black lungs or whatever. So we can kind of go with that. So that's sweetgrass. I wanted to talk about sweetgrass. And the other thing that I wanted to talk about, which is actually the main thing I want to talk about till these other two things came in today, was about the bathroom, going to the bathroom. One of the things I kind of want to put out there for all of us to pay attention is that when we have to go to the bathroom, be it number one or even number two, is that we honor that. I'll use that big word, that we honor that. And we go. We find the first opportunity. We stop what we're doing. We, say, excuse me, whatever politeness we can use, but we actually go to the bathroom. Now, one of the things that can happen in our lifetime, and I'm not going to focus on more of the coffee drinkers, because they can actually, bring on bowel movements at a certain, have a coffee, go to the bathroom. But the idea is natural peristaltic movement, which would be good for elimination, of course. Going to the bathroom, no matter which one it is great for elimination, but is actually to honor that, what would I say, activity, or that urge, or that need that our body has, and to just do that. But what can happen over time is if you get a routine with your sleeping, this is kind of like the internal clock. You get a routine with your eating, and you're eating healthy food. You can go at the same time every day, or go anytime that you go when you need to go number one. And that's what I found was most helpful. And when I started cleaning up my diet, or eating more of a clean diet, or when I do that, is that, I'd go a few times a day, and it would follow going to, number one. It was really interesting how that happened. And then other times when you have too much fiber, or even, I have to tell you the truth, even when I introduce alcohol, which I don't really drink, but if, let's say I did, go over to Ireland, or I'm here and you drink a couple glasses of wine, I found that alcohol actually brought on like big bowel movements. It's the easiest way to say it. It just did. So I'm not necessarily convinced we have to have one big bowel movement, or that we're looking for 3 big bowel movements. We may just be eating too much food. And if we're going regularly in a sense of too big, it may be that we're consuming toxins, or even neurotoxin, like caffeine is a neurotoxin. And that would just induce an evacuation of the bowels. So I've been playing with this for several years, to tell you the truth, and it just I just want to spend a lot of time observing and playing with it. But that's what I found out. And when I ate more processed foods, like a burger or something like that, French fries, there's all these unhealthy fats that also brought on a large bowel movement. But the healthiest I've ever been as far as bowel movements were actually following every time I went to the bathroom, which maybe is up to 5 times. So smaller amounts throughout the day. And so every time I went to the bathroom for number 1, it would happen. Now, I know that's kind of personal information, but I don't really care about that. I mean, the talk about bathroom, bathroom talk is, I think, a very valuable talk. It's like the stigma we have on mental disease. Well, let's have no stigma on bathroom talk, although we don't have to talk about it everywhere and anywhere. We don't. We don't have to be obsessed about it, as Dr. Bernard Jensen pointed out. But it is something we shouldn't, we shouldn't avoid talking to. Like, if you're coming to see me, you shouldn't avoid talking about it. Be very comfortable in talking about it with the people you should be talking about it to, which is fine. So that's what the 3 things I wanted to talk to today. Yeah, sweetgrass and fluoride, and yes, going to the bathroom were the 3 things I wanted to kind of bring up today. There's more detail in all of them, of course, and if you're inclined to want to research more, because that's your nature, great. Otherwise, I would tend to say, well, I'm not even an expert on any of them, but I might know more than the average bear. And what is an expert? These days, there's far too much information and research that goes on to actually even want to think about it, because I'm not, research is research. There's still far too many questions I have on any one research that happens. It could validate a certain things. It could bring in a certain thing for me to go, well, that makes sense in the whole light of, the root cause of disease or whatever else I learn. And that's fine that way. But really, do I want all of you going and reading hundreds of pages of research? Is that what I'm telling you? Absolutely not. Keep life simple. And we want to avoid as much toxins as possible. And we want to have healthy elimination. Absolutely. So less toxins coming in means less toxins you need to have to push out. But like diarrhea, that's really the body trying to push out things, as is vomiting is, right? So we have to understand the healthy ways our body functions to assist us in being less toxic and more efficient at all the the energy production, the digestive digesting our food. Those things are valuable and key. So I hope you found today informative. It's good to see everybody, Bill and Debbie and Tracy and Bernadette and Howard and Daya. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. And of course, Daryl and Ivan. So thank you for coming on board. This is always great because it's taped. So if you didn't get to catch everything, just rewatch it and you'll have that. And of course, they'll all be on YouTube. If I can remember, I'll put the link down for YouTube down there, but it's easy. It's under Cheryl Millett. You'll get everything and anything that I've divulged through blogs, through interviews, YouTube channel. If there's anything there, if you just Google Cheryl Millett, I think most of it is coming up anyway. And in fact, the interviews that I've done come up before some of the other things that I have out there. But we don't, Ivan mentions about the fluoride really causing, causing an issue for a hardening of the pineal gland in our brain, which is a very valuable gland in our brain. Almost like you can think of the pineal gland as kind of like the control center here of the whole endocrine hormone, and needing the immune system, or not immune system, needing the nervous system as a key function of that play, of being able to work together. And we don't want anything hardening, and we don't want to, in the case, having an effect on damaging our nerves or interfering with nerve function, because the nervous system runs the body. And so if lower IQs in the studies is any indication, that it's lowering or interfering with their brain function, then we just want to eliminate fluoride altogether, right? We just want to do that. So bring in the good stuff, eliminate the bad stuff, and just make sure we just keep going. So thanks everyone for coming on. Any questions, just put them down below. The questions may come in after the fact perhaps, and I'll get them so I can comment there for other people to see. But best of health, everyone. Thanks again for coming on board. And next week again will be live at 5, and then I might have to adjust it because I do actually start, I'll call it a job. I'm very excited about it because I can bring everything that I have learned over these past 11 years as being an entrepreneur, and also the personal growth and mind and stuff like that, into a very small workplace, but very close to home, which is really cool. And so I'll be working till 5, and I'm going to just assess what it is, and maybe I'll just go in a bit earlier and come home earlier and do something like that. But I like the live at 5 timing, but I might change it. We'll see. I'll let you know. But take care, everyone. Have an awesome week, and best of health. Bye for now.